بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله والشكر لله، صلاة وسلاما دائمين متلازمين على النبي الكريم محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، أما بعد. And welcome back to our program, My American Jihad, with me, Imam Shamsi Ali. I would like to continue our discussion on how our Muslim community in the West, and particularly here in the United States, to prepare a solid future generation. In the last episode, we talked about the most important and the most fundamental preparation for it. And that is the importance of al-intention, al-niyah, al-ikhlas, the intention of al-niyah to prepare a strong generation. Today, I'm coming to the second point, and that is the importance of educating our generation as early as possible. And I would like to call it, do not delay it. Don't delay in educating our generation. When we talk about Islamic education or education for our children, we are talking about the beginning from the very process of building and developing our family. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, said that tunkahul mar'atu li arba'. A woman is married for 4 reasons. You may marry someone for beauty, for rich, for money, for popularity, or any other motives and reasons behind it. But then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Fadfar li dhati din taribat yadak." But you have to take into consideration even more important than anything else, that is about the deen. It is about akhlaq. It is about religiosity. Taribat yadak, your family will be established, solid, or strengthened. Now, when Rasulullah sallallahu talk about a woman being married or a man's proposal being accepted based on the religion or akhlaq, basically he wanted to remind us that only by having a spouse that is knowledgeable or having a good religion or akhlaq that can contribute into the process of future generation education. How do you expect your wife to educate your children about Islam if your wife herself doesn't understand the religion or doesn't commit to the faith? And so again, education, basically, when you talk about education of tarbiyah in Islam, it must begin from the very beginning of the process. And I think this is one of the most challenging part of the family life here in the Western society and including in the United States, because sometimes it's not easy for youngsters to find a spouse who is appropriately in terms of religion. Because of the environment, because of friendships, sometimes that our young generation are falling into wrong relations. So it is very important here when we talk about preparation that our parents must take a part in the process of that, finding his children's right spouse. And I used to say that matrimonial service is not only done by any professional organizations, but it must be a responsibility of every single community to help our young generation to find their future spouse. It is even more difficult for our young sisters who wanted to find a good spouse, a good husband, or sometimes because of the environment, it is not easy for them. So it is very important that parents must involve and help their generation to find a future spouse. It's about marriage. A marriage is intended to build a generation, to build a good family. And one of the meaning of that solid family is a solid generation. The second one, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam give us all directions in order to prepare that future generation. And I'm sorry to mention this one, but even when a husband has a relation with their wife, there's a sunnah there involved. And that sunnah basically is connected to our attempt, to our effort to prepare a future generation. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and protect our blessed child, if Allah blesses with the child in that relations, from the shaitan. And that itself is a part of that preparation for the future generation. Until when our wives are pregnant, for example, among the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that let's parents read the Quran, make dua as much as you can, read Surah Yusuf, read Surah Maryam, and other surahs in the Holy Quran with an intention that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala influence that fetus, that child inside of the mother's womb with religion. Now some people think that how it is possible. He is not listening. Of course, Allah is teaching His creation. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created something or someone, He is involved. He is involved to that process. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to process of that creation, but also through education. So when a mother is reading the Quran, a pregnant mother, for example, is reading the Quran, that recitation of the Holy Quran basically has a direct impact to that child in the wombs of the mother. It's a part of our preparation. Do not delay it, my brothers and sisters. Till when that child is born. And the first one we'd have to do is making azan to the right ear, or iqamat to the left ear. Why azan? Is a part of education. So education had been there from the very beginning of the journey. Education is not began by sending our children to the Islamic school. It's not began when our children can read Abata or ABC. Education had been processed from the very beginning of the journey of establishing our family. So the point once again is about don't delay it. How many mothers and fathers complain about their children because they're late? You know, they tend to talk to the children when the children are in the high school, because they thought that when they are still in the kindergarten or primary school, they say, oh, they are still not mature enough to know. Education is not only transferring knowledge, but it's about tarbiyah. And tarbiyah is a process, basically. You know, it takes some time. And there is a process that's taking place there. There's not only that you come and give them knowledge. More importantly, the one who teaches is not you. Essentially, the one who teaches his servants, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to process that education as early as possible. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, says, "Muru sibyanakum bis salati 'inda sab'in." Command your children to pray when they are 7. Now, the word 7, this is numerical number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The word 7 is not necessarily 7 as we know, because we have to understand the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not necessarily literal. Sometimes we have to understand behind literacy. What does it mean for 7 here? And we understand that the meaning of 7, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, command your children to pray when they are 7. Now, what's the meaning of 7? It means as early as possible. The moment they can observe, the moment they can analyze, the moment they can listen, the moment that they can see, even before basically, then ask them to pray. MashaAllah, the social media nowadays with all tools that's available in front of us, teaches us that, our children are learning as early as possible. They can open their cellular, they can open their iPad, they can open their, laptop while they are still 4, while they are still 3, while they are still 5. So we don't have to wait until they're becoming 7 to teach them how to pray, teach them how to recite Al-Fatiha, teach them how to move. All these are part of that process. The meaning of that, once again, that teach them ad-din, al-Islam, as early as possible. Now, why as-salat? Because as-salatu imaduddin. Salat is the foundation of the deen. So the meaning of that hadith, muru sibyanakum bis-salati 'inda sab'in, command your children to pray when they are 7, means teach your children about the deen as early as possible. You don't have to wait until they go to junior high school or senior high school, because sometime when they have gone to junior high school or senior high school, they speak even better than us. Sometimes they feel they are smarter than us. They know how to argue. But when we begin education from the early age of our children, they are going to use to. If they used to pray, they're going to pray. If they used to fast, they're going to fast. Man shabba ala shay'in shaba alayh. The one who used to on something, he's going to be used to. That's what it is, as the Arab people used to say. So once again, the point here is do not delay. Don't wait. How many people once again regret? They are so regretful because they began to talk to the children when their children had become so mature and when the children had already gone away from the deen. I still remember. There was a mother one day called me. There's an Egyptian, I'm sorry to mention, she's an Egyptian mother. And she called me and said, Imam, please do help me. So I said, what happened? She said, my daughter. What happened with your daughter? And we came to her house, and her daughter basically was so rebellious. She ran away from the house and lived with a boyfriend. So I asked the mother, what happened? And she acknowledged that she was working, the father is working, and nobody had ever time to talk to the kid until they are becoming high school, students, and they began to behave differently. And then the parents then realized there's something wrong. And then they wanted to talk. It's too late. Our children feel that they're independent, in particular here in America, when they are 18, they feel that they are fully independent and they have the right to manage their own life. And sometimes, I'm sorry to say, some children would like to say to their parents, this is my own business, because we are late. So once again, don't be late. The second point to that today I'd like to underline is about the importance of knowledge. Knowledge is certainly about the knowledge of the Quran, about the Sunnah. Teach them how to read the Quran. Teach them how to understand the Quran. Also the hadith of Rasulullah sallam, seerah of Rasulullah sallam. Teach them al-akhlaq. It's about knowledge. It is very important that we instilled knowledge in our kids as early as possible. Let them memorize some ayat of the Holy Quran. Let them memorize some short surahs of the Quran, at least Al-Fatiha and short surahs, so they can pray. They have some reading materials when they pray. Some adiyah. Brothers, how many of us are so busy, living in New York City, in the United States? It's so busy, very hectic for everyone. The life is so demanding. The need is so big. And we are so busy doing our life. And oftentimes we don't have that much time for the kids. But there are many ways that do it. If the father can do it, then the mother must do it. If both cannot do it, then at least that you have to bring them to the masajid to learn al-Islam. But my point is that the ilm, knowledge, is paramount important, fundamentally needed in order to process our kids to become a strong future generation. But the ilm is not only about the Quran and Sunnah. It's about only memorizing the Quran and Hadith, but also the knowledge in general. The knowledge to behave respectfully. It's about akhlaq. The knowledge to communicate respectfully, how to communicate to parents, but also the knowledge about the environment where we live in. And there is someone in the Quran whom, according to some scholars, that he is not the prophet, he is not the messenger, he is not Nabi, he is not Rasul. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned him, or mentioned him in the Quran as one of the best educators. And why this person has become the best educator? Because he had become Hakim, wise. He has wisdom. And one of the most important wisdom is wisdom towards our own children. And that wisdom can only happen when you have knowledge, because knowledge basically, wisdom basically is the higher level of knowledge and understanding. That by al-hikmah, we have broad in mind, true and deep understanding of the life, not only about the religion, but also about the life in general. Who that person is? Luqman al-Hakim. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ. When Luqman al-Hakim said to his son, "Oh my beloved son, associate not Allah with any partner." It's the wisdom that this man had, and he tried to transfer that knowledge to his kid. And that is the second point that I would like to remember here today, brothers and sisters, that we cannot simply prepare a strong generation unless we prepare them with solid knowledge of Islam and solid knowledge about the environment where you live in. Why I'm mentioning Islam and environment where you live in? Because many people understand Islam, many people know the religion, but they don't know where they live in. They don't know the environment. So what happened, there's a gap between the beautiful Islam, the beauty of Islam, and the environment we live in. There is no connection sometimes. We memorize the hadith, we memorize the Quran, but we don't know what to do when we come to the real life. And so once again, knowledge is not only about the Quran, knowledge is not only about hadith, fiqh, sirah, akhlaq, but also how that we must understand the environment where you live in. And parents have that responsibility to teach their kids that this is the environment we live in. So they know how to live their life as good Muslims in sometimes I call it bad environment, or in our backyard here in America. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our generation. May Allah continue to guide our kids so they can become better Muslim, inshallah, even better than us. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.